Well, I went out shopping for an hour or so. Oh, guys, you have to try Dr. Davis's yogurts if you haven't done so already. He's got a book on gut health, and Douglas and I have been using the formulas for I think maybe 2 or 3 years now, where we use the Reuterei, the Gaceri, and the Infantis and create this yogurt thing that we eat once a day. But I just thought maybe I should try his other strains. So I was out today getting the different strains. We're going to upgrade and bring some of these other cultures in. Anyway, so I'm gone and I get back and he has a whole page to go over with you.
Well, enteric nervous system, that is gut health. And what she was just talking about is so absolutely critical. You can't think clearly if your gut health, this nervous system that's as big as your spinal cord and actually has, in some cases, more matter in it than your brain. So people forget that your gut is absolutely critical. Now, my gut says, yeah, Hegseth, no wonder they didn't want you being there because you're obviously a warrior. Okay, let's just talk about the fact that he just said he's taking troops. Now, it's funny because they put it in the idea that he's taking troops away from Ukraine. What he's saying is, you ain't getting none of my troops because I'm sending them where? To the U.S. border. As I told you, there is a war that is about to take place on the U.S. border. We already know there's a war in the air to try to get air superiority right now because of all the drones on both sides. And there's all the mapping. They've sent their best Air Force fighters and reconnaissance planes to take pictures of all the cartels. And you're going to see a war, folks. And it's going to be just absolutely wonderful because without that, it won't stop. And once the war has established a real border there and you allow an endless stream of the 40 to 50, 60 million illegal aliens in this country to go across, hey, and if they were good people while they were here and our system is what convinced them to come here and get a false Social Security number and a false IRS payments and sending it out with remittances to other countries, let them apply to come back in legally. And if they were really doing any good work, well, then, let them demonstrate to us that. The problem is everyone coming in now only comes in to become a voter of the Democrat Party.
And that's a good thing because we're going to need the workers because we're in a state of depopulation. But here's the other thing. If you like America so much, go back to your country and put your type of America into the government. Model your Constitution after our Constitution. There's no reason why there can't be other Americas around the world.
Now, Hegseth also they already have. There's investigations for treason against politicians. Treason because why? The Department of Defense now has taken over for the FBI because why? The FBI was held on hold, why they got all the evidence out of Christopher Wray's office, and I could make you the list. You all know the list. So they had to hide all that evidence. But remember, the FBI does nothing without the DOJ. Do not forget that. Nothing without the DOJ. Have you heard what's happening at the DOJ? No. DOJ has not been overthrown yet. So remember, when you say Kash Patel, you say an absolute nobody who did nothing in all three of the appointments that Trump gave him after he was Devin Nunes' assistant, who really wrote a pretty pathetic report. If you were reading our reports at that time, we included 10 times more information than that and pointed the finger at the right place. So Kash Patel is going to be running an FBI that's going to have no power and they won't do anything. Hey, but guess what? That will be at least coming to neutral, do nothing, because all the FBI ever did before that was create false flags, active shooters, and all kinds of kidnapping governors. The list could go on. Everything but what they should be doing with the approval of the Department of Justice. So until the DOJ starts to drop down. Now, have we seen that happen? Yes, we have. But again, I want to salute Hegseth, who seems to just be scaring the snot out of the politicians because there's now also, so there are things, it's Bondi, right? Isn't she the one that, the Attorney General? Pamela Bondi, she is kicking butt every day. So we're in like a slow news day, and I have 31 items here to go over. All right. On a big news day, the items are executive orders that got put into place. That's been happening for 3 weeks. We now are seeing the aftermath, the fallout. And so, what do we start to see? That the American Bar Association was basically dismantled. So, the very organization that's the union of the false what people call lawfare, using our judicial system as a form of warfare, lawfare, right? Okay, so that's what was going on. So now we have Hegseth saying, "No, I don't need the FBI, and I don't need the DOJ. These are crimes against America. It says domestic. You are domestic, and I don't care. You're a politician. You're a domestic terrorist. I'm going to take you to Guantanamo Bay."
And that is what we have been saying for years. These are not just your run-of-the-mill criminals. These are domestic enemies, and they are traitors. So I was so glad to see that the Department of Defense is going to protect us from our domestic enemies.
So you can follow Doge's reports, that are going to keep showing tremendous fraud, but then it's going to get down to a number of things. What can you do about that fraud? Can you call back that money? So they keep saying they're going to claw back, what was it, $200 billion from this and here and here and there and there and there. Okay, all very well and good. But fact of the matter is, if it was on the budget, you actually have to take political action to change that. But as we pointed out, one of the first EOs he did was what? Create a sovereign fund. Now, things can be directed by the executive power, not into another line item. Even they with Obama and all the other corrupt people who overthrew the sovereignty of America from the White House, they put it into slush funds, and then they put it into their own investments, and then they cronyism, and then you get to see USAID, OPIC, and all the others. That was a payoff system, as I've told you before. No one is in a second term in Washington, D.C. without having an offshore account, except maybe Rand Paul. Okay? I mean, they allow oddities there, but the point is that I'm glad they're going after Ilham Omar, and for a number of crimes. So what you see is all over the place now, Republicans stepping forward and trying to make a name for themselves for being able to speak out and say, I stand for law and order. That's all they're doing. There's not almost everything I'm saying that's going on here is nothing more than law and order coming back to an equilibrium. All right, so the DOJ, there's a thing called what Trump did with his executive order for the non-weaponization of the federal government or any part of the government against any other part. So those things, that has basically changed everything, because that now gives them the right to say in any particular federal agency, was this part of any weaponization against Trump during Trump's time? If there was, it can be investigated. So you got, Chuck Schumer under investigation for threatening the Supreme Court, for threatening Doge people, for threatening Trump. Real investigations. You got things coming out to show that the fraud involved in James Comey covering for the Hillary Clintons, that's about the only real news today, but is completely hidden, is that, Robert Mueller, James Comey, Andrew Weissman, and Andrew McCabe, all those people are all guilty. And so if they simply follow through on that one executive order, which they seem to be following through on a lot of this stuff, there's investigations going on everywhere, right? Now, will there be, as I said, the 5,000 lawyers necessary to start going after practically everyone in Washington, D.C. and all their cronies? Just take for USA Aid, right? Look at the fraud there. How many politicians are involved in those? All. Well, why would you think it wouldn't be? Every single one who ever heard of it wanted to get on that gravy train, right? So that's what's going on there. Now, there's a few things I'm going to go over quickly because you need to know this. When they say there's a pandemic czar and the whole libtards. I like calling them libtards because they are really retarded people. Now, they may be witting or unwitting. If they're witting, they're evil. If they're unwitting, they're just libtards. But they get all upset because we use the word czar. Well, there was a border czar called Kamala Harris, the border czar. Okay, it was okay to call her that, though she never went there, didn't even know where it was on a map, and was happy to invite anyone into her house, as you can see, because she was just a party girl. But anyway, the pandemic czar, and people get all warped out. Okay, pandemic czar has been defanged, declawed, deneutered, defrocked, and basically doesn't exist. That's what he's doing with a lot of these agencies. It used to be the only person who talked to the president every day was the person in charge. What was Obama? I might have even invented the name pandemic czar, but they didn't bring the attention to it. Not pandemic czar. She was the person for weapons of mass destruction and / pandemic and all preparedness. And she had some weird name. So that was the only person who got to talk to the president every day. So he basically ignored Obama, and Biden ignored their National Security Council. Trump completely rewrote it so that it doesn't hardly exist. He rewrote this office. Now, this office is a made-up office because it's now under Health and Human Services, which is underneath good old Bobby. Well, don't get me started on Bobby because then I won't get to my other 30 points. But the point is that it's under Health and Human Services. So we do not have to follow the World Health Organization because why? Trump pulled us out of that. First he defunded it, then he pulled us out, and basically even said, and make sure you understand we are not part of your stupid, evil, eugenic depopulation schemes that you call the World Health Organization's International Committee. No, gone. So that's all. It's like it's dissolved. Just as I said, I'm marking them off my page because they don't exist anymore. We're not going to hear from that department anymore. We're not going to hear from Kash Patel because he's an idiot. Look at the children's book he wrote. Okay, the man's an idiot. He did nothing when he was in key positions. He did not help Trump at all. But he's a useful idiot. He'll do what Trump tells him to do. Now, so is the DOJ captured yet? No, I'm not marking that off. Is the FBI captured? Yes. Is the CIA captured? Notice nobody's heard a word about the CIA, have they?
They're having a big layoff right now.
I told you they are gone. They do not need to exist. They are so anti-constitutional, it's disgusting. So we can go over a few things. Let's see if I can get through a bunch of these really quick. Stormer's coming for a visit. Well, he's a war actor. I hope we arrest him when he's here because he hired 200 people to fight against Trump in the election. Now, Trump is going to use that as leverage against him. That's why he called him here. So he has to bow down to Trump. Because Trump's already bowed down to him. England's already bowed down to Trump twice. So now he has to come here, bow before Trump, and that will either make or break him because Trump already said he could break him. And yet he's coming here to let him talk. What's they're really talking about? They're talking about Ukraine. I'm not going to go there yet because that's endless. But just needless to say, notice that you are seeing Zelensky change his opinion every 10 minutes, depending upon what's on the table, because he's an idiot and he has to go take another hit of whatever drug he's on, which gives him his bad taste in clothing and the worst leadership in human history, calling themselves a leader of a country who was, in fact, a CIA place puppet. So he's not even in. He's not even in the peace agreements. Because why? He doesn't matter. There will be an election. Now, my point is that why do you think Starmer is coming over? Because Trump has said to NATO, I should have to start cussing. Thank heavens we're trying to kill these implosive peas because I'd have to start cussing about this. It was the British who got us into the Ukrainian mess. They've tried to get us in through so many false flags, I can't count them all. I could make a list. They were deceptive behind all of it, always gave false information. Everything that you've heard has come from the British press. And by the way, Trump just took action against the AP and Reuters by kicking them out of the press room. Do you understand what that means? He's saying this, he got what we said. that it's a company owned called ISIS Management from England, but it's actually owned by Dianne Feinstein and her husband, called what I can't even remember the name of it. But the point is that he basically bitch slapped them all the way across the Atlantic.
Wasn't it Leader Plus?
Well, that's what it was originally called. Yes. That's what it was originally called.
You called it ISIS or something.
No, it was called ISIS Management for ISIS because that's the name of the Thames.
Right.
But there's another name for it, which I can't remember. But that's what gives all of the Associated Press and Reuters Thompson the right to determine what all mainstream media reads as propaganda. And he bitch slapped them so hard, it's just ridiculous. So now he's going to do that to Starmer, and he showed him that he can do that from a distance. Almost got him fired. But Trump backed off of him after he brought to light the fact that 200 specialists were sent over as election interference. Now, that was already happening with Cambridge Analytica, it was already happening with Global Engagement Center, it's already happening in many ways, but this is a specific account that he was personally responsible for, caught, and should have been kicked out. So basically, Nigel Farage is on his way to become the prime minister. And Starmer will be out if Trump decides he's out on this visit. So that's what that's about. It's also about the fact that they've been trying to pull us into the Ukraine with NATO all along. That's the reason another Baltic cable has been cut. That's the reason Nord Stream 1 and 2 are cut. The other Baltic cable was cut. The Belarus oil pipeline, the 3, and all of that, that's all British. Okay? I think Trump is probably aware of this since some people not many, but we've certainly been screaming it for years. So anyway, the point is he's going to be discussing the fact that no, he's never sending troops in. And this, how do I know this? Because Hegseth is taking the most bold actions anyone in his position has ever taken before. Because why? Trump has laid on the line that he's not sending in troops to Ukraine no matter what. This is a deal he can do. And I said, long toe, so did he. I think he probably said it. If he didn't, he should have. He can end the war with one telephone conversation, which is basically what has happened. And Zelensky's not even invited to the peace talks. But he does not. And he's made it perfectly clear. And so has Hegseth, and so has J.D. Vance, and so has Rubio, that NATO is not going into Ukraine, that Ukraine has not become a member of NATO, and that Zelensky's got to go, and that this is how you do it openly in front of the world instead of a color revolution through the CIA and George Soros. Has happened twice before in Ukraine. So, the bottom line, let me just say this also. The bottom line with Trump is it's already been bombed to smithereens as he went on and on and on. And what did he do? He compared it against Gaza in one of his last pressers. On and on and on and on. All the buildings are knocked down. Millions are dead. Thousands are dead. Right? What's he saying? He's going to do in Ukraine exactly what he did in Gaza. He's going to turn it around and make it into Trump Towers, casino, and whatever the heck you want. And make everybody happy. Making a deal. Instead of the politicians behind the scenes acting as if their diplomacy is the only thing that can possibly create peace in the Ukraine. And Putin, I mean, these issues go back a long, long way. You know that. We must have committee meetings. And this is the nonsense that we see already on the table over Ukraine. And what have they all said? This idiot, Starmer, said to Trump, I'm sending my troops in. And oh, by the way, they happen to be NATO troops. And Trump said, no, you're not. And we're not sending in NATO troops. And you and all your European Union companions can all send all the troops you want in if you wish to watch over the election. But if you do that, I'll have to send in our troops to watch over the election too. Because he knew it would be a false election, just like all of them always are. So this is he's just fighting them on every time the evil does something now, because they got away with it for decades. Now they're not getting away with it. They almost killed Trump when he tried to stop this last time. So anyway, he's going to level the place. Here's his 3-step plan. He's going to Level it. Okay, well, that's already happened in both Gaza and Ukraine. Then he's going to take the resources. He's going to get the oil. I told you how that goes. He's going to, in Ukraine, get, as I told you, the titanium, the lithium, and the graphite. He really wants the graphite. Lithium deposits have been found in America recently that are bigger than those. So when you look at the statistics, that's all wrong. They have 500,000 whatever tons of lithium. That we're going to all new batteries. Lithium is going to be old hat soon. Okay, there's all kinds of new types of batteries that people haven't even heard of yet. And then his third step is always split the profits. But you can bet that just like Biden, what do they call Biden? Got his 10%?
Yeah, for the big man.
For the big man? Mm-hmm. Well, Trump is now the big Don, but he's international. Biden couldn't even control Delaware or wherever he lived, or, in nothing. He couldn't control his nothing. And his son was proved that he had degenerate genes to begin with.
Well, let's not be naive about what we see here. I mean, this is all well and good, but he is amassing so much world global power. He too could become one of these global maniacs. I'm talking about Trump.
Now, for you poor people in what used to be Britain and what used to be United Kingdom, before that it was Britain, and before that it was a bunch of Celts. I'm a Celt. Well, I stand up for you. I do not stand up for the government that has taken over you and, 56 other nations under the Commonwealth of the United Kingdom and a false monarchy. So now I want to apologize to you that they're going to take now your knives, your pocket knives, because the invaders are taking them and killing you, so you don't have even the defense of a pocket knife. They already took your kitchen knives. They took your guns. You have no defenses whatsoever, and you are losing, and your government is killing you, and they're coming after you online like nothing I've ever seen. It's worse in some cases than what we saw during the lockdown. So I apologize, but I want to thank Liz Truss, the previous prime minister, who came out yelling that what England needs is a Doge. I love that one. So she'll probably be coming over to visit Trump afterwards, or Nigel Farage, who probably, Nigel Farage and Trump are like, old buddies when they get together, They probably go out and have a beer with lime in it. You know how those British limeys are. Now, I mentioned I started on this the other day, and I did mention this. This is absolutely critical and became a critical balance point, and we reached critical mass in the Justice Department when Amy Berman Jackson was bitch slapped by Trump's attorneys to say, no, you cannot appoint to the Office of Special Counsel. You're idiot. I forget his name. He's a complete idiot. And of course, Trump gets to choose who is the head of his Office of Special Counsel, and she took it to court twice. This means the collapse of this is the last breaths. This is the death knell, the sounding of the trolling of the death bells for the collapse of the judiciary system. He fired, as I said before, 93 federal prosecutors, and then he fired a bunch of federal judges, and he fired a bunch of immigration judges. Now he's going specifically after individuals who came after him. And I noticed this the other day. I didn't write down the names. A couple people that he's appointed to major offices, they're going after the lawyers who went after them. So he's going after his team's opposers, the lawyers who are idiots. These people have to be disbarred. That's why they took down the ABA before they went after hardly any lawyers, because that's what props them up. That's the British Bar Association, the Temple Bar, that they take their vows to the monarchy, okay? They would rather get, the Order of the Garter than they would an award from the president. They are traitors, okay? So anyway, Amy Berman Jackson, we've already proven, is a very, very corrupt judge. We have to take down these judges. I hope it's the last hurrah that they have to try to challenge Trump. But in every single case that I know, in every case that's been brought against Trump except for Horseface, which was the most obvious case of legal lawfare that I've ever seen, and then the crazy, ugly woman who said he attacked her in an elevator. Okay, that's the only two cases I know that went anywhere. The rest were all trumped up. They're all ridiculous. And so every single person involved, look, he took out the FBI. All people who were involved in the case of prosecuting, really, if they prosecuted that case, they were there that day. They were the aggressive ones. They were the ones breaking things, okay? So everyone on the J6 attack of insurrection on the Capitol ain't working for the FBI no more. So the FBI don't even exist. Do you hear anything about them or the CIA? No, bye-bye. Now, he's going after gold. I'll go to that in a minute. But I got to go back to some points that I had insinuated before, and I want to make sure you understand this.